Denzel Washington sat at the far end of the view's curved table, posture so steady it made the soft tension in the studio lights feel sharper than usual. Whoopi Goldberg sat across from him, leaning back in her chair with her reading glasses perched low on her nose, her stack of cue cards clutched like a safety net. The audience hush was polite but tight, that hush people hold when they sense the smiles are wearing thin. Whoopi started soft, trying to pull the tone back under control. Denzel, you've always been outspoken about your values, but you're here today talking about community policing and government trust. Why stir up more anger when people need calm? Denzel didn't flinch. He nodded once, eyes steady on her. Because calm without truth isn't peace, Whoopi. It's quiet surrender. A small rippled near the front row but got eaten by the hush. Sonny Hostin cut in, voice polite but tight. But when you call out law enforcement or judges or politicians, aren't you just making it harder for people to trust the system at all? Denzel's tone dropped softer, which somehow made it cut deeper. The system doesn't work if you trust it blindly. It works when you hold it accountable. Whoopi's smile slipped. She pushed her glasses up her nose, her eyes narrowing just a touch. You keep saying, hold accountable. So what? You're telling people to tear everything down? You think that's responsible? Denzel leaned forward, elbows on the table, his voice calm. I'm telling people to stop pretending the spin is the truth. You can't fix what you won't look at. Sarah Haynes shifted her note cards, voice trying to lighten the hush. But don't you think you have a responsibility not to push folks too far? There's a lot of anger out there. Denzel's stare didn't budge. The anger was there before I ever said a word. The question is, what do we do with it? Whoopi let out a brittle laugh, the hush bending around it. Well, Denzel, I don't think most folks want you standing up here telling them they're all fools for believing in something bigger. Denzel's jaw tightened just a hair. I'm not calling anybody a fool. I'm saying don't mistake silence for peace. Don't mistake comfort for justice. A cough cracked the hush. The band stayed quiet. No one dared fill the silence with music. Whoopi leaned in now, voice dropping low. People are tired, Denzel. They don't need Hollywood coming in, lecturing them about what they already know. You get to go home to your mansions. They stay in it. Denzel's tone was steady as a hammer. Then they deserve to know who keeps it broken. The hush pressed tight enough that no one clapped. No one cheered. They just watched the grin slip for good. Whoopi Goldberg's laugh came out sharp this time. No warmth, no TV smile. She tapped her cue cards on the table so hard they bent at the corners. You act like you're the only one who sees injustice. Like the rest of us don't know it's broken. Denzel didn't blink. Then why do we keep pretending it isn't? Sonny Hostin leaned forward, her pen tapping against her mug. Denzel, you're respected. People listen to you. But sometimes when you talk like this, it feels like you're accusing everyone else of sitting on their hands. Denzel's voice dropped lower, that hush-pulling softness that made every word land harder. If the shoe fits, Sonny. People don't want to hear it because it means they've got to stand up too. A single clap cracked from the back row. It died under the hush before it could breathe. Whoopi's eyes narrowed behind her glasses. So now you're calling everybody a coward? Denzel's jaw flexed. No. I'm calling out the comfort that lets good people look away when it's inconvenient. Sarah Haynes cut in, voice tight, but trying for a light edge. Don't you think it's a bit much to sit here and say folks aren't doing enough? You don't know what people are dealing with. Denzel looked at her, then back to Whoopi, his tone steady as a nail in oak. I know people are tired, but the system counts on that. It counts on you being too busy, too scared, too distracted to see who profits. Whoopi's voice snapped like dry wood. You think you're better than the rest of us? You think because you have your name on a poster you get to tell people what courage looks like? Denzel's stare didn't flinch. I'm not better. I'm just not afraid to say it. A murmur cracked near the band. The hush crushed it. Whoopi leaned forward, glasses sliding down her nose, voice cold. So you're just going to sit here and tell people they're part of the problem? That's your big fix. Denzel's laugh was soft, but there was nothing sweet in it. Telling the truth isn't an insult. It's the only way you ever fix anything. Joy Behar, who'd been quiet, finally jumped in, voice dripping acid. So you're the moral police now? You get to decide who's brave and who's asleep. Denzel's tone dropped to a hush so tight the audience bent closer. No, Joy. I'm just not paid to pretend the spin is gospel. Whoopi sat back, arms crossed, eyes like flint. And what exactly do you think you're gonna do, Denzel? Make people so mad they burn it all down. Denzel leaned forward again, elbows on the table. Maybe they need to see what's rotten before they build something better. The hush held. The lights hummed. And no one dared clap yet, because it wasn't done. Whoopi Goldberg's fingers drummed a slow rhythm on her cue cards, each tap hitting harder than the last. She didn't bother with the polite smile now. She let the audience see the frustration in her eyes, the edge in her voice that always snapped the room to attention. Whoopi leaned in, glasses sliding low. You sit there and preach, Denzel, but where were you when the real work had to be done? Where were you when the cameras weren't rolling? Denzel's jaw flexed, but his voice didn't shake. I was where I always am, with the people you never see when the lights go off. A small gasp cracked the hush. Joy Behar leaned forward, smirking. Oh, please. You're gonna act like you're out there on the front lines? You make millions playing pretend. Denzel's laugh was low, but it carried. That's the problem. People think I'm pretending now, too. Whoopi's tone dropped to a warning hush, the kind that made producers sweat behind the cameras. You come in here, you insult this table, you insult the audience, and then what? You want to play hero? Denzel leaned forward, elbows braced on the glass. I want people to stop being comfortable with the lie. That's all I want. Sarah tried to step in, voice cracking just enough to betray the hush in her chest. But you keep calling it a lie, the whole system. That's dangerous, Denzel. He turned to her, eyes steady. What's more dangerous, the lie or the people who keep selling it? Whoopi's laugh barked out, sharp enough to slice the hush. And you're the truth teller, huh? You, with your private jets and your gated house and your team of handlers. Denzel stared, didn't move. And none of that keeps me from calling it like it is. Whoopi slammed her palm on the table, the smack echoing through the studio. You think you're better than everyone at this table? You think your truth is the only one that counts. Denzel's voice went low, that hush-breaking hush. No, but it's the only one I can look in the mirror and live with. The audience shifted, breaths caught between the tension snapping at the edges of every word. Whoopi's tone dropped to a hiss, eyes locked on him like she could burn him off the set. Keep talking like that, Denzel, and you can pack up your righteous speech and walk right out that door. Denzel didn't blink. Say the word. I'd rather stand outside than sit here and pretend the spin is real. And the hush pulled so tight, not one person in that audience dared clap. Not yet. Whoopi Goldberg leaned back just enough to cross her arms tight across her chest. Her eyes narrowed into slits that could slice the hush into ribbons. She let the silence stretch, the audience hanging on the edge of every breath. Whoopi's voice came out slow, each word dipped in acid. You know what I can't stand, Denzel? Hypocrisy. You sit up here on this stage, acting like the rest of us don't care. Like we don't fight for what's right. I've been doing this my whole life, long before you decided to drop your golden truth bombs on daytime TV. Denzel's shoulders didn't move. He just stared right back, tone soft enough to hush the row behind the cameras. And I respect that, Whoopi. But your fight doesn't give you the right to tell people to sit down and shut up when they see something rotten. Joy Behar barked out a sharp laugh, eyes flicking at the audience for backup. Oh, listen to him. Mr. Moral Authority. You think you're so different, Denzel? You think your hands are clean? Denzel's voice landed steady as stone. No hands are clean in a dirty system. But at least I'm not selling soap while standing in the mud. A couple of people in the back row couldn't hold it. A half gasp, half laugh before the hush squeezed it flat. Whoopi slammed her palm flat on the table. Don't you dare come on my show and call me a liar. Denzel's jaw flexed, eyes locked on hers like he'd burn every fake grin off the set. I didn't call you a liar. I called the spin a lie. And if you're defending the spin, maybe you ought to ask yourself why. Sunny Hostin, who'd been scribbling notes with her head down, snapped her pen in half. That's enough. You don't get to come here and talk to Whoopi like she's the problem. You don't get to sit there with your Hollywood halo and dump on people who actually do the work. Denzel's voice dropped lower, the hush bracing for the snap. Doing the work means telling the truth, Sonny, even when it makes you lose friends at the table. Whoopi's laugh this time was a hard bark. You know what? Maybe you should go. If you can't show respect, you can take your speech and walk out. Denzel's eyes didn't move. I'm not here for your respect. I'm here for the truth. A single clap cracked the hush, shut down so fast it felt like a bomb that never went off. Whoopi stood up halfway, her chair screeching under her. Then get out, Denzel. We don't need you preaching to us about what we already know. Denzel stayed seated, voice flat. Then stop pretending you don't need it said out loud. The hush braced, so tight you could feel the break coming. Whoopi Goldberg stayed half standing, her chair pushed back just enough that the camera had to angle up to catch her glare. The audience felt it, the tension humming in the floorboards like static you couldn't shake. Whoopi's voice came out tight, every syllable a shove. You think you're some hero? You think you're doing something brave sitting up here lecturing us? We're the ones who have to keep people calm when they're scared. We're the ones who get the threats when they don't like what we say. Denzel didn't flinch. He sat there, spine straight, elbows braced on the glass table. And I respect that. But telling people what they want to hear instead of what they need to hear? That's not calm, Whoopi. That's sedating them so they don't see what's being stolen. Sunny Hostin threw her broken pen on the table with a sharp clack. You're not helping. You're giving people permission to burn it all down. Denzel's eyes shifted to Sunny, tone like a cold wind. If it's rotten to the core, maybe it deserves to burn. The hush bent so tight, half the front row couldn't breathe. Joy Behar pointed at him, her voice rising over the lights. You love this. You love being the big righteous man tearing down the people who actually hold the line. Denzel's laugh was quiet, no smile. Holding the line for who, Joy? For the truth, or for the same spin that keeps people comfortable enough not to look? Whoopi slammed her palm on the table, her tone final. That's enough. This isn't your stage, Denzel. This is our house. And if you can't respect that, you can get out. Denzel rose slow, his hands flat on the glass for one last second. Respect is earned. And the truth doesn't live in your house. It lives out there, with the people you tell to hush. The hush cracked for good now. Someone near the back row tried to clap. It came out a sharp slap that died in the tension. Whoopi snapped, her words ice. Security. Escort Mr. Washington out. Denzel looked at the audience. No grin, no wave, just that same calm stare that had made the hush break in the first place. Remember, the spin needs your silence to survive. Don't give it to them. He turned, slow enough that every camera got one last shot of him leaving the table, the hush trailing him down the hallway like a secret no one could bury again. And when the doors slammed behind him, the spin had nowhere left to hide, not even on Whoopi's stage.